Hello and welcome to episode 9 of Weekly Account Fixing. Let's get right into it. This week, we have quite a bit to talk about. First, exploration. I partially explored the Sea of Bygoneras and fully completed the Nostoi region, both above and underground. The Nostoi region was already partially done, and also relatively small. Not only that, but I had already completed the major world quest in this area, which guaranteed there would not be any collectibles I wouldn't be able to access. The Sea of Bygoneras is obviously much larger than the Nostoi region, and to avoid burning myself out of exploring again, and then keep pushing it back, I decided to only do part of it. I grabbed a few chests and challenges, as well as all the hydroculi, and that was enough for me. This brings one more sub-area to 100%, and in this case a true 100%, as I'm certain to not have missed a single chest. It also brings the Sea of Bygoneras to 76% explored. I might finish it next week, but no promises, as it took me 2 weeks to bring myself to get Easy Breeze Holiday Resort from 85% to 100. Okay, with the exploration out of the way, let's bring up questing. Despite not completing any world quest, I have done Inefa's quest, which also happened to be main story. I honestly didn't care and didn't pay much attention. I got what was happening, but it wasn't a single bit interesting to me. However, the rewards of 60 primos, with another bonus 60 for completing it during this patch, and one intertwined fate, did make me pretty happy. Even though I would have probably gotten more just exploring for the same amount of time. Lastly, Friday, the 6.0 livestream happened. There are 3 parts to this livestream, in my opinion, so let's talk about each one separately. First, Not Cry. The region looks nice, I'm excited to explore it, and it will come with a couple of characters I'm interested in, namely Columbina and Varka. I have no interest in either Flynn's or Lauma. Nefer had a bit of spotlight in this trailer, and while her design is pretty cool, she looks to be Dendro, which doesn't really work with any of my existing team archetypes or characters. The banners for 6.0 have also been announced, with Laoma and Nahida taking the first half. As for the second half, Flynn's will be alongside Yelan. Yeah, I'll have to pull next patch. I'm gonna be honest, I was expecting it. Yelan just received the skin. It was pretty obvious she was rerunning soon. However, to make things worse, since I do want both Yelan and her weapon, Aqua Simulacra, I will have to end up pulling on the weapon banner. The problem with that is, of course, the weapon banner itself, as there is a fair chance I received Flynn's weapon. And so I did look up its effect, and well, if your name isn't Flynn's or Nefa, it's just a stat stick with no effect. My solution for that is just to win the 50-50 and not get Flynn's weapon. Easy, right? Anyway, let's move on to the second part of the livestream, user-generated content. From what I can tell, this is just Hoyoverse adding Roblox to Genshin. You can make your own games, mini-games, and such in Genshin, and share it with other people, play with friends, customize your character, and so on. To be honest, I think it's a pretty cool addition. I'm sure people who like that sort of stuff will be happy, and I'm certain some very creative community members will make awesome stuff. At the same time, I just don't see why. Why even make it a part of Genshin when they could just make it a standalone platform like Roblox is? Anyway, on to the third part of the livestream. That's been getting a lot of heat from the Genshin community, the anniversary. Genshin's history with anniversaries has generally not been too good. In summary, for past anniversaries, Hoyoverse was pretty much just giving 10 pulls and that was it. Which, compared to other gacha games, felt like a massive disappointment to the community. Personally, I never really cared. Could it have been better? Yeah, absolutely. But my point of view was, in the end, it's still better than no rewards. I don't want to sound like a Hoyo defender or anything, or however you might call this, but the reality is I just don't care. I just want to play the game. And so, alongside the standard banner 5-star character selector, this year Hoyo announced Masterless Stella Fortunas, which is how we can raise our characters to level 100. People seem to have a couple problems with it, which I can agree with. Mainly how you obtain them. Every 5-star we've ever gotten beyond Constellation 6 will award us 1 Masterless Stella Fortuna, with 1 being used to get any character from level 90 to 95, and 2 for 95 to 100. Aside from how it's obtained, the couple problems I've seen with it are the following. 1, people will feel like their characters aren't maxed out anymore without getting level 100, which I can kind of agree with. And second, it feels like it's a big investment to get a character to level 100, which then sucks even more when they get power crept or replaced with a much better unit, which I can also agree with. But in reality, I just don't think it matters. As long as nothing gets balanced around level 100, it just really won't matter to me. I think the bigger overall problem with this will be transformative reactions. If we assume that the calculations thrown online are correct, and that Hyper Bloom damage will go up 40%, I don't see how they will be able to not balance the game around that. Enough about level 100 though. There is another thing from the anniversary that people have mixed feelings about. The Constellation Selector. Every 12 weeks, we will be able to complete an event to obtain a constellation from any character that came out before 4.0, with the exception of Yelan, Kesha, Al-Haytham, and the Archons. The keyword here being a constellation, as you won't be able to select a character you don't own, and you also won't be able to get more than 1 constellation per character. Those 2 things combined are getting people angry, and again, while I can see why, I'm simply happy that this is getting added at all. Could it be better? Absolutely. The selection of 5-star leaves a lot to be desired, as most of the characters don't have very meaningful early constellations. But at the same time, I'm just happy I'll be able to get something for free, you know? Alright, time for the recaps. First, Primogems. This week, I earned 2,321 Primogems. The usual 630 from Wilkin and 420 from commissions. 346 from exploration, 340 from events, 300 from the 6.0 livestream codes, 220 from Inifus Quest with 60 Primogems and 1 Fate, and 65 from achievements. This brings me up to a total of 16,706 Primogems and 10 Fates on the side. With the Yelan banner coming in the second half of 6.0, I estimate without any additional exploration that I'll be able to have about 200 pulls ready. A pretty solid amount considering I did pull in 5.8. As for the resin, after the 90 on weekly bosses, I spent 20 on Mora ley lines every day for a total of 140 resin. Then I used 120 on Arlecchino artifacts and 920 on Skirk artifacts. At the start of the week, I was spending half for Arlecchino and half for Skirk, but after thinking for a while, I realized that trying to build 2 characters at once from 2 different domains would just be hindering myself, especially when my Arlecchino is, in terms of artifact quality, way ahead of my Skirk. To put things into perspective, my Arlecchino, with her best build, has a roll value of 2,540%, while my Skirk is at 1,720%. I used roll value last week as well, but I didn't explain. So, what is it exactly? Roll value is a pretty good metric to analyze artifact quality. Of course, it's not perfect, but let me explain why I use it. Every artifact has between 8 and 9 rolls. If an artifact starts with 3 substats, then it has 3 initial rolls, and then gets 5 more at +4, +8, +12, +16, and +20. Starting with 4 substats adds 1 extra roll. So far, easy to follow. Every time a substat is rolled, initial stats or an upgrade, the value is random between 70% and 100% roll value. Here's what I mean. When an artifact rolls crit rate, it gets one of those 4 values: 2.72%, 3.11%, 3.5%, or 3.89%. 3.89% being the highest value, we'll call that one max roll, or 100% roll value. Every other roll turns out to be respectively 70%, 80%, and 90% of the max roll. That's roll value of an artifact. But how does this help us understand build roll value? Well, characters have different usable substats. In the case of Skirk, her usable substats being attack percent, crit rate, and crit damage, with flat attack being usable, but not desired since it is a very minor increase in damage compared to the other 3. To analyze our build's roll value, all we have to do is add up the roll value of our artifacts, only counting usable stats. Now, one thing to mention, if a character has 3 or less usable stats, like Skirk, then their maximum potential roll value goes down. Since every artifact has 4 substats, one is always bound to be wasted. This makes these characters generally harder to build as well. Okay, scary math is gone. This week, with the Resin as pen, I was able to get my Skirk's total roll value up to 120% with this new feather. And yeah, when you compare them, it's really obvious. Def maxing Skirk was, in fact, not optimal. If you like the series, be sure to subscribe to not miss next episode.